Your heart is actually governed by the universe, not by you. Wisdom grows within the soil of patience.
The only difference between me and you is I have 100% certainty.
They said it was a miracle that it healed.
They can shapeshift, they can do remote viewing. They have learned how to use that subconscious mind.
That's the point behind all this, to recognize who we are and let our love and wisdom deepen.
Within 10 years, you are going to see a reality that you cannot imagine right now.
Hey, Guy here, and welcome to my Best of podcast. If you've been following my podcast for a while, you will know that I do this on an annual basis. And if you're brand new and you just clicked on it on YouTube or something, welcome. A little backstory. I've been podcasting since 2013. Can you believe it? It's now coming into the end of 2024. Blows my mind. And I had a podcast originally called 180 Nutrition, the Health Sessions, which I lived when I worked in the health and fitness industry for a long time. And then, of course, you know, if you've been following my journey along here, exploring meditation and having my own awakening per se, I sold my company and then ended up starting this podcast, Let It in the beginning of 2018. So it's been a full 6 years now of doing this, and I love it. And this last year especially, I've been making more of an effort to gain traction, help it get out there more and more, especially on YouTube. So if you're watching this on YouTube, great, stick around, hit subscribe, hit like, help me get it out there more. Nah, just joking, but not. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I do this podcast. It's a way of paying it forward. I really believe in the law of reciprocity. I believe that's the law where, you know, by giving, you receive, and allowing yourself to receive, you get to give as well. And the podcast is a passion project, and I love doing it. And to this day, I still get my mind blown by the conversations I have and the stories, the insights. And it's a place where I can just explore everything down this kind of spiritual realm that merges into wellness and quantum physics and you name it, you know, it's there. And when I say as well, this podcast is the best of, it's challenging because I love every episode. I really do. And I tend to handpick ones that resonate with me. It doesn't mean it's a better podcast than an episode that I haven't put in here. But there was something about it, maybe a connection or something that was just like, wow, it just really got me going. So I've stitched some together. I think I've chosen 6 all in all. I'd love to hear what you think about it. If you're a long-time listener, first-time caller kind of, please be sure to let me know in the comments where you are in the world. Are you new to my podcast? Have you been listening for a while? Honestly, when you think about it, the podcast will get listened to. I think I get about 200,000 listens on YouTube a month now, maybe. Plus then all the audio, which is less than that, but still reaches people. And I never know who's on the other end. I never really do. I just put them out there and they're impacting people. But then when I run my one-day workshops or retreats, people come up to me and give me a hug, because I always ask for a hug on a podcast if you meet me in person. But then, you know, I connect with people in person and actually start to have chats and things like that and find out why you listen to the podcast, what your searching is, and have a proper human conversation. Anyway, there's one other thing I wanted to say as well. Like, how's your 2024 been? Has it been what you expected? How you planned it? Didn't plan it? I find the more I surrendered, the word surrender was definitely my word for 2024. And the more I've lent into that, the more my life continues to open up in mysterious and beautiful ways, and challenges as well, of course. It always comes with the challenges. While on the side note, I remember, it just popped in my mind now, talking about challenges, we're actually running a 7-day challenge with Live and Flow with myself, Matt and Petra, who I work with. I'll pop a link below this podcast. You might have time if you watch this early on this release, and if you want to join us over the 7 days, we'll be taking the community of people together to crack into 2025. I was also reflecting, I've ran 24 one-day workshops this year and 6 retreats, which blows my mind, absolutely blows my mind in 2024. And what that signifies to me is when you think about it, we average between 75, say 60 and 100 people on a one-day event when they come, whether we go to Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide we went to this year, Brisbane's big one, Ballina. Wow, what a response in Ballina. And then at our retreats, they tend to sell out because we can only hold about 35 people, even though we did Bali, Croatia as well this year, which we're doing next year as well. But anyway, what that signifies to me is that there's a real hunger. The world is shifting. People are really crying out for more and more information, and it's so exciting. I really feel it's such an exciting time to be living right now, and all I can say is keep going. If you're consuming this content, you're consuming other podcasts, apply the information, be the change you want to see in the world. And I really feel things are shifting, and there's nothing more rewarding than actually contributing to something greater, the greater whole, the collective unified field, the collective consciousness, whatever you want to call it, because it keeps coming back more and more. So wherever you find yourself in your life right now, know that if you keep leaning into this and not this, your heart and not your head, and start to nurture that and lean into support if you need it, knowing that it's out there, that you can be guided by other people that are walking the path before you, take action, do it, because it's just an amazing time right now. And of course, I hope to meet you in person one day soon. Anyway, I've been talking a long time already, and it's the best of. So if you're still with me, thank you. So let's go over to the first guest. All right, first up is RJ Spina, and I've had RJ on the podcast 3 times, and his story is phenomenal, which we covered in the first podcast, and I had him on twice again this year. And every time I have these conversations with him, I really connect with him, and we have these amazing discussions. But his ability to access information that's pretty metaphysical, that's pretty out there, but actually to me makes a lot of sense at the same time. I'm always learning something new when I listen to RJ speak, and clearly both responded exceptionally well as I had really great feedback. So I wanted to share this clip with you in here now. And what I make sure I mention as well is that for each guest that I pull into this best of episode, I'll make sure the links to that actual full interview is below as well if you want to check it out. All right, let's go over to RJ Spina.
Wisdom grows within the soil of patience. Okay, so if we can just allow the process, we won't have to reach for anything. And I promise everybody, eventually you will be jazzed up. You will be passionate about something. Now that something will be the real you, whether that's cooking, gardening, writing a book, opening a business. Who cares? The world is your oyster. Let it come to you. Let the aroma of the self waft up and inform your mind. And that is not a looking. It'll simply happen. And then act on the highest excitement, because the highest excitement is your higher self, and you are a fractal or 2.5% of your higher self. That's your higher self giving you an energetic wake up. You excited about this? Go for it. That's what this, and that's how you know you're on your life plan, when your motivation has nothing to do with anything outside of yourself. It's more about just expressing this feeling that you have inside, this joy, this passion, this love that must be expressed. That's when you know that you're in alignment, not when it's about what's out here or what he's doing, what she's doing, or I need to do this, or I need to do that. That's still the unawakened mind. Trust in the process that the caterpillar is going to become the butterfly. It already is the butterfly. The tree is in the seedling. You are the I am. Whatever you desire is given. They come from the exact same place. If we can reside in that place, it will be known.
Beautiful. I want to get metaphysical for a sec, RJ. Mm-hmm. Working off that, because everything we spoke about is actually really practical and useful. Like people can take away so much from today, but I'm curious to know your thoughts about, do we choose the life that we come here to do? The operating system, the subconscious mind, obviously there's free will involved. Like we are given free will, so it's up to us to decide when we want to let go of what's not ours. Why are we coming into this carnation with, I guess, a bit of a clunky system that is making things so bloody hard for us and challenging. I mean, if you even look at what's going on in the world right now and all the conflict, it's all driven by beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. The answer is degree of difficulty, which gives us the greatest reward. So the more difficult it is, the greater the reward. Now, I want to be very clear, Guy, about when I say reward, what the hell am I talking about? What reward? Okay. The I am, the fractal of God that we all are, the reward is the deepening of our reservoir of love and wisdom, whose subsets are our talents and abilities. That is what evolution actually is. That's the point behind all this, to recognize who we are and let our love and wisdom deepen through the trials and tribulations that we all raise our hand for by incarnating into the lower frequencies of the physical universe. There is no evolution, or very limited, I should say, very limited evolution, if we all just did a swan dive every time we did a dive, right? I can swan dive. That's a fairly easy dive, right? Are we becoming better? Are we actually honing our skills if you just keep doing an easy swan dive? No way in hell. So what do we do? Well, why don't I try this triple backwards somersault flip, right? That looks really hard. Let me do that, because if I can master that, I'm actually evolving myself. That is what incarnation into the lower frequency, where you and I are, and everyone else is watching, you're going to watch. That's what this is. We are doing the triple backward somersault because the degree of difficulty, because the reward is greatest, and the reward is the deepening of our reservoir of eternal love and wisdom, whose subsets are our talents and abilities. And that is the greatest evolution of consciousness possible, by giving us the greatest obstacles and challenges that we co-create through our life plan to see ourselves in the act of creating and therefore overcoming it. That's the reason why things are so tough here, because it's worth it. Degree of difficulty.
And do you feel like people being born now at this time are coming in more consciously aware that there's because humanity in general, the consciousness is shifting, there's a frequency shifting that is kind of holding a mirror up to humanity, which is kind of saying we all have to go with it or we're going to suffer, essentially.
Yeah, you're on the money again. I was just did a couple of interviews with, well, they're all young to me now. I'm old, but anyway, I just did a couple of interviews. I mean, with people in their early 20s. I mean, one gentleman was 21, and another gentleman was 23. These guys are so brilliant and so advanced. It's like they're starting on third base. I mean, they're starting on third base, and you're right. We're seeing a wave. We're seeing a wave of souls coming in that are so advanced because they're anchoring in this ascension. They're absolutely anchored, and it warms my heart for me to talk about all the stuff I talk about. And they're right there with me. They're right there with me. They're like, oh my God, I totally get it. They're right there. And these are young adults. We're absolutely seeing a wave, and it's going to continue for quite a while. A wave of what we call more advanced or more evolved, which are two different things, by the way. More advanced and more evolved souls coming in to help us in this ascension process to create a new reality for ourselves by operating with ourselves more optimally and more holistically.
Beautiful. Now I bring you Robbie Holz. And this is a beautiful lady, a beautiful soul. I find myself constantly talking about her book in the one-day events that we do, especially the one-day events and our retreats. When I'm in front of people, they say, you got to read her book, The Secrets of Aboriginal Healing. It's phenomenal. Let's just go over to Robbie. I've had her on the podcast twice, like I said, and this is from the second time she came back on. And again, I had a huge, amazing feedback from this episode. Definitely worth checking out. Let's go over to Robbie.
Gary was actually a very well-respected physicist. He had inventions. He had been on magazine covers for a physicist. And that's a pretty scientific black and white world that he lived in. But he ended up developing MS, and he had that for a number of years. And Gary's such a determined guy that he still, even when he ended up as a quadriplegic in a wheelchair, he still operating as a physicist, taking, plane rides and everything else. But it got to the point where the doctor said, he really had about 6 months left to live. And he knew that he had to find answers because he had 2 children that were still alive that he wanted to be around for them. It's a heck of a motivator. So he found out through the woman in the bar that you just mentioned a little ago. He went into a jazz bar. He loved jazz, and he was kind of soothing his soul. And through a number of serendipitous events, he met this woman who was from the outback who knew about the healing abilities of the Aboriginal people. And so he contacted them, and it's in the book, Secrets of Aboriginal Healing, and flew out within 2 weeks as a quad in a chair in the back of the plane for, how many hours that is from the United States. And then he went in, he was unlifted as cargo from the plane. And then he went into the outback with one of the tribes people. 2 of them had, the tribe that he stayed with in the outback did not have any connection to civilization. But 2 of their members did sometimes go into the cities. They had children that were in the cities. So they would go back and forth. And so that was his connection, and that was his way in. And he went as a quad. He hadn't had feeling for 7 years. And he came out of that desert after being with these people and their healing modalities. 10 days later, he came out able to clumsily walk on that flight back home by, walking down the aisle of the plane, supporting himself with the chairs, but still, that was remarkable. And he had feeling in his body for the first time in 7 years. 7 years, that's a long time. So he learned about their healing modalities, which had been passed on word of mouth for generations and generations, at least 60,000 years, longer than that. These are their healing modalities that have always been passed down. They had not disclosed that to any other person, a white person, except one Chinaman years ago. We don't know what happened to that information. But they asked him to take this information out into the world because they said that we civilized tribes, again in quotes, didn't really understand how healing worked. And so Gary, being the physicist, came back from the outback, and it just rocked his world. It just completely changed everything. So he went back to get a doctorate in psychoneuroimmunology,
which means,
how the mind affects the body. He got a doctor's degree in that, and also in nutrition, how the body, can be helped with nutrition and that sort of thing. And then he spent the rest of his days teaching this information to people. And he ended up developing tremendous healing abilities and didn't know. It was just, to him, the biggest thing was believing in gray that can't be proven. That was really huge for him as a scientist. It was always black and white. If it can't be duplicated and proven, it doesn't exist to him. But that changed. And he came back and he started developing the same abilities that he had noted in the Aboriginal people that he was with. He could see auras. He could see inside the body. He could see tumors. He could talk telepathically to people. And it was always interesting that he would talk to the patients when he came back. And the only ones who really knew he was talking to them were the autistic people. There was no filters. They always knew he was communicating to them. So he started healing. He started with animals, and then he started working on people. And that's when I came into his world. And we started doing that together then. So
now, a couple of questions, because I still, every time I hearing you coming out straight out your mouth, it's like, wow, like it gives me goosebumps, truly, because there's a lot of people that are so entrenched in the masculine, the analytical side of things. Everything is black and white, everything is like this. It can feel very hard to tap into that emotion, that free flowing, get connected with oneself and get beyond those 5 senses and start to experience something more.
Yeah.
And for Gary, no, I believe they knew he was coming. Is that correct? Even before
Yes.
they were expecting him?
Yes. Before he even contacted them, they said, "What took you so long?" They knew he was coming. But the Aboriginal people that I'm talking about are the ones that are, I like to think that they are in a 5th dimensional frequency. They're very advanced. They're very telepathic. They're very, they will connect to the plants and find out what is needed for what. They can talk and find out where the water is. They can shapeshift. They can do remote viewing. They have learned how to use that subconscious mind. And these guys are safeguarded in this. I mean, you know, that desert is vast. It's just so big. So they are able to be remote and live in that world, you know? So he observed when he was there in the village, he saw them spending an awful lot of time, what he thought they were just daydreaming. And it turns out that they were sort of in the dream time, you know, creating and going off into all different kinds of places. He didn't realize that's what they were doing until later. And then he came back and spent more time doing that sort of thing as well. He would sit in his and just meditate for hours every day. And that's more real, they'll tell you, than this illusion that we live in.
Well,
So, yeah.
are these tribes still untouched? Do you know, or is Western society now infiltrated?
That's a great question, Guy. Well, first of all, I don't have contact with the tribes anymore. I actually went into the outback and performed ceremonies myself and got to experience that. But
Wow.
As I understand it, these remote tribes are leaving. I think that's probably another reason they gave us this information. They're leaving. It's harder for them to sing on the ley lines. It's harder for them to live the kind of life they did. I don't think that there's a lot of them out there. And as I understand it, they keep dwindling in number all the time.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
shame, isn't it? Sing on the ley lines. Can you expand on that?
Well, I mean, I know we just talked a minute ago about you going on the ley lines where that's the energy of the earth, right? And so they understand. I love this idea of when they go on these walkabouts, it's like a giant labyrinth, you know? And they're going on the ley lines where the energy is and singing and putting things back in order with the energies to these
Wow.
places. It's just so advanced to what, you know, we know. They really are so connected to that. The more you realize, and maybe that's why, you know, Gary and I came from the United States. We had no concept of Aboriginal people at all. So we weren't prejudiced. We didn't have any information at all. We went in and just observed. And what we learned is that they don't have, again, it's fifth dimensional living. They're showing us how this works and how to get there. They don't have possessive words. There's none of this my, you know, yours, mine. And there's no judgment. There's no criticism. It's just such a loving, compassionate community where they all help to be of service for each other. There's no ego. You know, that's what we learned with the ones that we were with. There's a lot of nations, tribes, whatever you want to call it, but they're not very large. And the ones that he was with were not very large. I think there were about maybe 24 that consisted of this particular nation.
Wow.
So I watch here in the United States, I watch the shows that are on television. They're so competitive. You know, there's winners and losers all the time. And it's like, I will look forward to the day when we don't do that anymore. It's just not part of our consciousness.
Okay, now I bring you Jim Self. Jim came on my podcast twice this year. I remember stumbling upon him watching Gaia TV over a year ago, and I wrote a note, reach out to Jim Self to see if he'll come on the show. And he came on, and this segment is from the first episode. Both episodes are phenomenal. And what I love about Jim is not only is he the real deal, he's just like this. The way he articulates information and actually distills it down into ways of practicality are very powerful. I found myself actually going back and re-listening to what Jim had to say, because he says it in such a way that it allows us to feel empowered and actually take action. One thing I've learned across in my life with this work is that if we don't actually take action, and where the rubber meets the road is just constant mental stimulation, which doesn't get us anywhere, we really have to lean into the processes itself, get beyond the mind, and start to embody the very things that we discuss on these podcasts. Hence why I'm very passionate about setting up a space for people to come and we can co-create spaces together and learn from each other. Anyway, let's go over to Jim. He's just a top dude, and I'm hoping to get him back on in 2025.
You're going to see a lot of pieces breaking up in the power structure and the way we've been doing. A lot of confusion. It's just isn't going to go away because the light switch turned on. But you're in the process of watching a major set of things unfolding. You watch all that immigration all over the world, for example. It's being driven from fear and lack and pushed out of their homes. And yet there's a underlying piece of freedom. I'm going to find freedom. And that vibration is beginning to light the direction that the whole world's going right now.
Wow. Wow. With what's going on, it's been, almost 12 years since 2012.
Yes.
That moment, it'll be December, right? I think that'll be 12 years. We're in April 2024 recording this. Do you see all of these shifts happening in our lifetime? Do you think this is just a gradual process, or the acceleration is just going to continue to amplify?
You know, we've said, all of us have said, well, it's all coming. It's coming. It's coming. We've been saying it's coming for a long time. And all you could do is it's coming. You couldn't put dates and timelines, and you couldn't do any of those things because, you look back. All you could do is look back, and it's like, wow, it's taken a long time, and the density is really dense. Within 10 years, you are going to see a reality that you cannot imagine right now. I'm even going to be bold and say within 7 years, within 5 years, within 3 years, how you know what you know right now will not be in that period of time. Kind of hear that loosely, just loosely. That's not a prophecy. That's not a truth. It's just when you start looking at what's happening in the games, you're going to see things like the world monetary system completely collapse. Now, people go, oh, that's bad. Well, how do you like it so far? Is it serving you well so far? And so what happens is, the world banks are controlling the whole game on their terms. And are people starving? Are people able to be treated with dignity and equally? Are people given opportunities? Because they're not, If you don't fit that white, gray hair, old American white guy type of mindset, there's something you don't live up to it. And if you're Maori, if you're black, if you're brown, if you're if you're female, how dare you? What were you thinking? And the power structure says in one way or another. But that 1% that's kind of dominating the economics and the directions of an awful lot of things, that power is sliding through their fingers. Now, I'm not saying you're going to have revolt. You are, but it's not going to be. You're actually going to see things break in such a way that even the power, inside the power, they're wonderful people. They're just doing their job. But you're going to see people who have said, I have a better way, who have been shut down, pushed to the side. They're going to rise to the surface, and they are going to be in positions to make things happen. And things are going to transition. Comfortably? No, unless you're able to manage your own space, hold your own alignment, be able to vibrate in your reality, where the place that I would answer the question, what do I do to the person at the dinner table, is I provide a direction, cooperation, to give you a set of choices of well-being. What if we could just wave a magic wand and your life could be built on a platform of certain, capable, gracious, happy, a sense of seniority. This is who I am. Commanding your presence, a sense of strength, smile. What if you could weave all those feelings together, begin to recognize that you have this thing called an aura, right? Everybody kind of knows that, but do you know it? Do you know that there's a point where it kind of starts and stops, more or less? And if you were able to simply make a decision, a really simple decision, that from that edge of the aura, which is basically take your arm, stick it out in front of you, and turn your palm towards you, from that point to your heart is you. And everything on the other side is Shakespeare's theater, to entertain you. Now, certain capable seniority, and I get to watch the movie over there without having to get it all over me. What do you think? Would that be a different way of living your life? That's what's coming. People are waking up. People are recognizing their own dignity, their own capability of saying, I can discern, I can choose. And the game that's keeping it all together is falling apart.
I love what you're sharing, Jim. It's phenomenal. And I consider, I always look back on my old self, the rugby player from Wales, bloody oblivious to any of this. But there was always, like you spoke about, I always felt like an outsider, outside the systems my entire life. I just didn't want to fit in. And I kind of really resisted it. And I'm so grateful now because it allowed me to I guess, stay almost like a blank slate to then be inputted in the information that I'm now, very passionate about. But with all this going on, this would feel a very far stretch for many people to listen to, especially when you start leaning into angelic realms and beings and things like that. And if somebody hasn't had that experience, it just feels like, what? Like my reality is just these five senses, right? But at the same time, I deeply feel when I look back on my journey, there was just a pull, there was a knowing, there was something that was just calling me forward all the time when the whole world felt like it was against me.
Yeah.
And I know we'll be speaking to the majority of those people today, I think, and people that are on the path going. But I kind of look at what you just shared as almost like a rising tide.
Yes.
And it's like, if I keep holding on to my old self, I'm going to drown in this. And if I'm willing to let go and surrender and allow it to take me into this new way of being, then everything kind of falls away that's not serving me anymore. That's how I kind of simplify it in myself.
Yes. Yes.
So I guess my question to you would be then, what do we need to do to surrender into that? You spoke about present time and the present moment. Is that where you feel the magic is for us to kind of seamlessly go with this transition that's happening in the world? Because I know there's a lot of people fearful and things are coming up for them. Yeah, how do we navigate it?
Let's change one word to start with. Let's take the word surrender off the table and substitute choice. What if you had choice? Now, see, as soon as you begin to talk in choice and you say, and let's just kind of push the fear and the uncertainty just kind of over to the edge for a minute. Now, see, as soon as you do that, you take a lot of unconsciousness out of the experience right now, right where you and I are speaking. We take the past. Well, I'm not sure. I didn't do it right. They didn't like me. I wasn't okay. What's wrong with me? You immediately just push that to the side. And the future, I don't know what's going to happen. It's really nervous. And I'm watching all those that have power over me. Let's just push that off to the side for the moment right here. And what is left is me and you having a conversation. Two people. There's only, and everybody's heard this many times, there's only present time. Now, you can't change 5 minutes ago, but you can remember 5 minutes ago. And you can't change the past. You can have an idea of what may be possible in a couple minutes, but a couple days, a couple months, it gets more gray. So what happens is we basically live to a great extent in the past and in the future. We're hoping that doesn't happen again, and I'm hoping it doesn't happen out there in my future. And so we're constantly doing that. If you think about a lot of times you worry about something how many times did it not even happen? Once the moment came, didn't even happen. The things you were worrying about to a great extent didn't even happen. Now, if you put a lot of attention on it and you hold on to it, you worry, you will, law of attraction, attract to you what you are putting your attention on. But generally speaking, so the place that I prefer to begin to talk to people, and this is what Mastering Alchemy has always been about, is what if you had choice?
All right, next up, I bring you Rob Wergin. And what a dude, what a guy. I reached out to Rob on a whim and just said, mate, would you come on? And he came on the podcast and we had this conversation that just resonated at such a level. Honestly, I remember getting off this podcast, going up to my wife, Linda, and just saying, man, what a story. What a phenomenal guy. He was just, I love Rob. I still keep in contact with him. He's a beautiful soul. His work is phenomenal. If you're not familiar with it, and check it out. His story, again, is phenomenal. And yeah, this one sat with me for a long time. And if you haven't heard the full interview, go and check it out because it'll blow your mind. Anyway, let's go over to Rob.
Do we all have these abilities that you have if we were to develop them? Or are you like the Tiger Woods of golf? Do you know what I mean? Just a phenomenon that just happens.
You want my ego's answer or the true? We all have the, so this is what I say. I'm no different than you are. Obviously. I'm not superhuman. I'm not a guru. I don't walk on water, all that stuff. The only difference between me and you is I have 100% certainty that when I ask God for help for you or for me or for anybody, I have 100% faith and certainty and no second or third thoughts that it's going to happen. That's the only difference. I know it when I ask for it. It's like, do it now. And then it's done. But that your job is to accept what was just done or not, or believe it or not, or resist it or not. I think if we could all just get to this place, and it wasn't easy. I mean, it took me like 3 years after I started doing this work. I mean, I lost even more after that. I was penniless. I was begging for food. I lived in Sedona, and people would say, "That's a nice necklace you wear, Rob. That's really pretty." I'm like, "How much you give me for it?" And they'd say $10, and I'd give it to them, even though it cost me $1,000. And I'd go get dinner. I mean, so I went through it. I'm not complaining, but it was hard. It was difficult. I lost everything and sold everything just to do this work. And that's how committed I am. I have a passion like you do. And I'm here to make sure that people understand this isn't as hard as we've all made it to be. It's not. It's about faith. It's about trust. It's about belief. And it's really about your thought. And it's important that you understand what's happening when you say something. It's like an electrical charge goes out into your body, your field, the universe, and the universe always says yes. No matter what. Because the universe is unconditional.
When I got to ask you, just out of personal curiosity as well, when you're working, like when you connect in and clearly you just turn it on, and you've mentioned about angelic beings, seeing all the different beings as well coming in. Is that what happens? Are they actually guiding you? Is the energy moving you, or are you co-working with it?
They're not. What they're doing is holding space for that person and grounding the energy for that person and for me. I mean, think about it for a second. If you connected with God, the divine, whoever that is, that's a massive amount of frequency and vibration. Yeah. It's massive. I mean, you should see me working. I look like I'm a crazy person. But so one person alone can't handle it. I get it direct, but then, I like to describe it like I'm the hub of a wheel and it's going out from me in all directions to all people. And so if I'm doing 1,000 people or 2,000 people in a room, or 10 people, it's 10 or 2,000 very distinct and separate energy paths that are going to each person. Because again, like I said at the beginning, we're all unique, right? We're all different. Your different needs and soul and path, all different than mine and everybody's. And so I've got to be able to take all this energy down, and then it goes out in strands, or however you want to say it. And so there has to be a lot, doesn't have to be, but I think it would explode if there wasn't. There are a lot of spiritual beings, first of all, the masters, some masters that I work with, but also your lineage, because every time I work on somebody, your lineage is literally walking through the circle of energy that I'm working with you in, because they're getting healed as well. Because what I know is, if I don't go back, when I say I don't mean me, Rob, I say us, right? I'm not taking credit for this. But if we don't go back to your great-great-great-great-great-grandmother that had liver disease because she was an alcoholic, and it kept getting passed down, we don't go back there and heal her first, we're not going to clear it with you. And, you've heard the stories. Everybody in my family has breast cancer. Every man in my family has had a heart attack. Well, it's because we didn't let go of it. We became a moron instead of a lesson, and we passed it forward. And every time we pass it forward, it gets a little stronger. And then the real thing is, if you believe that you're the man in the family, and you're the man, and you're 42, and every man in your family's had a heart attack by the time they're 45, guess what? So we need to go back and clear that heart attack, so that line of energy goes away from you, and then you don't pass it down to your kids, right? And we need to go back to all of your past lives and find the stuff you didn't complete, so you don't keep rolling that forward. So it's not that we're just working on your left shoulder.
I was going to say, yeah.
We're working on all of your lifetimes, all of your lineage, and all of that radiates out into the universe. I mean, so the amount of energy that it takes to do that is insane. And it takes a lot. It takes, a village, as they say. So there's all these beings, your lineage, your guides, your angels, your masters, your teachers, and all the beings that work with me to ground the energy, because there's so much of it. And it's there for everybody. And like I said a long time ago, it's your choice. You want it or not? You want to negotiate or not?
It's almost, you draw a line in the sand, make a decision, and say, I'm all in, and then bring it on.
Bring it. Or know that in bringing it, it's probably not going to feel good, because you're going to have to detox all this crap you've been holding on to for lifetimes.
Cool. Next, I bring you Katherine Anderson. Now, Katherine, I first met her because she was a participant in our workshop, and then she came to our retreat. And then I believe she came to another retreat, and I got to know her. And I remember she gave me a lift somewhere once. I can't remember where it was, but we were in the car as she was telling me a story, and I was like, what? Come on. Phenomenal. And I was like, can you please come on the podcast and share your story? Not only did Katherine share a story, she spoke so well and broke it all down, and it was extremely inspiring. And I love bringing guests on the show that, I guess, everyday people like you and me, sometimes if they've got a best-selling book and they're out there and they can feel out of reach, you know what I mean? Even though we're all just humans at the end of the day. We all have to pull our pants on in the morning, as somebody said to me once, but I digress. So anyway, I love this conversation with Katherine. It's been an honor getting to know her, and yeah, she shared it so brilliantly. Enjoy.
Yeah, and you're 17 at this point now?
I was 18, yeah. So I had my 19th birthday in hospital.
What's going through your mind at that point? Like, if you're an 18-year-old laying there and all you can do is stare at the ceiling, I mean, because you can't move.
Yeah, and that's the interesting part, is like I was so trying to escape my circumstances and escape my life. And it's like the universe heard me and they were like, you know what? We've got the perfect antidote for that. We can really give you the time that you're looking for to work yourself out. And that's exactly what I got. Here I was, I had booked to go to, like on a Kentucky tour to go to Europe. Not long after I had my accident, I ended up having to cancel it because I was still in hospital. And I thought that was going to be what I needed to kind of find myself, but it wasn't. It was actually having time to work through, the trauma that I'd had, and really work out who I was and what I wanted in my life, and what was actually sacred, what was important to me. And it took something that big to actually slow me down and stop me and say, hey, you're not on the path and on the direction that you want to be, and we need to do a total 360 and change direction. So it was a really big path adjustment for me, and very necessary.
And so I'm just trying to place myself in that space at that age, and were like people bringing in self-help books to read, or were you listening to anything to inspire the way you were thinking, or to help you navigate to find yourself again? Because some people could just lay there and go absolutely crazy.
Totally. And that's what was interesting when I got back to Sydney. I had all the support of my family, and I had friends coming in to visit. My auntie gave me a Louise Hay book. It was the You Can Heal Your Life. And that was really phenomenal. That really gave me, I guess, the agency to understand that I was in control of how I saw the world, and I was in control of my perception of things that had happened, and how I was going to take that on board, and what I was going to make of those experiences. So that was really interesting. My mum had also just come off the back of a trip to Camp Eden. And one of the things that she taught me while I was in Singapore and then back in Sydney was a beautiful breathwork technique where you breathe in a golden light and you really imagine and envisage this golden light coming through and then wrapping itself around the bones and around the break and the muscles, and using it like a healing energy. And then as I breathe out, to actually breathe out all the inflammation and all the broken bits and anything that wasn't helping my healing. I didn't have a lot to do other than, things like that and reading. So that was something I did every day. And it was really interesting that at the beginning, what I visualized was very different to what I was visualizing by the end. At the end, I was really seeing that the break had mended itself. I used to imagine it meeting itself back together and that everything was coming back into alignment. So that was a very powerful practice that actually gave me really a tool that I felt like was empowering to help me, really sort of get through that experience.
So you weren't laying there thinking, oh God, is this going to heal? I'm fearful. But you were actually leaning into an envisaged outcome?
Totally.
Or were you dancing between both?
I use that as a tool that I did have. And my mum had even bought a crystal for me to wear around my neck, and she told me, this is a healing crystal. It's going to help you heal. So I had all of these kind of little tools that I was trying to use because I felt like I really didn't have anything else. It was really interesting being in an environment like a spinal ward. You're sort of sitting there in between an acute area and an area where people come back in for sort of maintenance who are quadriplegics and paraplegics, and they're coming in and out, and they would come down in their wheelchairs and they come in next to where my bed is and they'd have a talk to me and we'd share experiences. And I felt such gratitude that I was lying there, and even though I'd had this happen, I just knew that I was going to walk out of there where these were people that I was talking to that were feeling sorry for me that didn't have that. So it was a time when I became extremely grateful for what I did have, instead of harping on what I didn't have or harping on, the things in my life that I wasn't happy with. So it was was very humbling to be in that environment and to see people in there that had done such small things that had caused these massive accidents for them. Like one lady that was in there had fallen off the first step of a 2-step stepladder and broken her back. Things that were just so minimal and had caused these life-changing effects. And I was there with people who were never going to walk again. So I just had to dig really deep to know that I was going to walk out and nothing was going to stop me and my whole life was about to change.
Wow. And last question on that, with the breathing and the visualization, because it's such a powerful tool. At that time, how long, like you said you were doing it daily, would it be for just 10 minutes? Were you there for an hour? Were you fully present? You know, how did it look like for you?
Yeah, look, I did do it daily. It was something I probably spent about half an hour in that visualization, maybe a bit longer. Sometimes I would fall asleep while I was doing it. But it was something where I really tried to imagine very, very clearly what was happening and that it was healing and mending. And what was fascinating about that is that when I got back to Sydney, they sort of said to me, your break is so bad that for every 1,000 people that have that break, only one person will walk. So I already knew how lucky I was. And I was insistent that that was going to be me. That one person, why can't that be me? So all the way through that, they were also saying, look, we're going to likely have to do a spinal fusion at the end anyway, because the chance of it still being stable is pretty slim once that healing time is sort of finished. And we'd done everything leading up to that sort of screening, preparing for an operation. And I just kept saying, I'm not going to need it because it's healed. And the morning of that screening, I woke up and that crystal that my mum had given me had broken in two on my chest, which is, I still to this day find really interesting because I couldn't roll over. I couldn't move. I was just lying on my back. And yet here I am with this crystal completely split in two on my chest. And when I went to the screening, they said it was a miracle that it healed and that I didn't need a fusion. So to this day, I'm still in awe of that. And I guess that was the moment that I first realized that there was something so far greater than I was that was sort of puppeteering and orchestrating all of this in a way that I couldn't even begin to imagine, and really then started to lean into that.
And last but not least, I bring you Dr. Ibrahim Karim from Egypt. And this is the second time I've had Dr. Ibrahim on my podcast. And every time I hear him speak, I feel privileged that I'm in the same conversation with him or trying to keep up with him. He's such a beautiful human being. His impact on the world through biogeometry is phenomenal. And his knowledge, when he speaks, I just hang on every word because he makes a hell of a lot of sense. And he has done incredible things for humanity in general. And if you're not familiar with him, I'm really glad I'm bringing him to your attention today. And just enjoy, sit back. And I would highly encourage you, no matter where you are in the world, to look up biogeometry as well, because it can definitely support your personal body and your home as well. Anyway, let's go over Dr. Ibrahim Karim. Enjoy.
So what other parts are coming in? So the animal here, to the animal who is already living one foot in linear time and the other foot in multidimensional time, he is living in both at the same time, you see. So for the animal, going out of this room to the next room is not a big thing emotionally, because he has always been there. He's been moving, going between the two rooms all the time, you see. So imagine now a butterfly. A worm transforms into butterfly.
Yeah.
You think that there is here, the worm is afraid to die?
But because the worm, as another species, is not limited to linear time, the worm sees the world of the butterfly, and the butterfly sees the world of the worm. So it's like seeing the next room and this. So just moving from one thing to another is natural. So that's why you cannot compare life and death in nature. This is part of the divine law governing nature. You cannot compare that to all the killing we do in our lives and say that this is natural. No, this is a totally different story. You see? So you cannot compare those two together. Now, and when an animal dies, you're very sad because the animal's gone away and your lifelong dog friend has left you. In reality, the dog has never left you. It walks into your dimension in and out, although you don't see it. It has always been there. It just lost the physical part, but the rest is always there. So being on the other side is a natural thing. You're there all the time. And that is your mortal soul. Imagine living in an apartment where you have a mate living with you, two persons living in an apartment. In ancient times, they used to sit together, they used to speak together and eat together and all that. But one lived in a room with facing one side, has a certain view, and the other, his room faced the other side. But they could come and sit together and interact. So there was no problem between both of them. Each one would tell the other what he sees. Now, you decide, the two have decided not to speak to each other. So each one goes in his room, closes the door, doesn't want to sit with the other guy. And that's the modern situation, you see. So they don't exchange information. And the thing is, you are looking at yourself as I'm this one and the other guy is closed in the room. You don't know that you are actually a temporary thing here. And soon you will be the other guy. You've been there all the time, you see. So looking at life and death, you should look at it that way. Life is a fantastic opportunity for you to experience actual freedom of action. Because, in a dream, for example, once you move to the other side, you're connected to the laws of nature. So you're part of the natural evolution. Here, you've been given freedom of action to experience this decision-making process that you managed to mess up so much. And it comes a moment when you mess it up so much that you're going to feel the need of going back to this higher order because there's no way back. You're going to break up everything. So here, this experience of trying to take your own decision is a temporary thing. It is made to teach you. Now, I'll take another example showing you this relationship between spherical time and linear time. If for you to create this world we live in, because now we agreed that it's a projection from our mind. Now, for us to project this world, this physical reality, we have to have functioning senses. If you don't have senses, you can't project reality. You have to have functioning senses. But to have functioning senses, you have to have blood flowing with life force into the brain. That's a prerequisite for your senses to function.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that means that you have to have a living body first. You have to have a heart that beats first in order for your senses to wake up. The senses, this is you, your identity. Okay. But that means your existence, your sensory existence, and the birth of your sensory soul from the universal one is second stage, not the first stage. The first stage is a living heart, a living body that has to revive you or give you blood, So your existence is secondary to the body. Okay? So what makes the heartbeat then? What makes your digestive system work? If it's not, it can't be you. Because it is the prerequisite for your existence. So it's actually the multidimensional laws of the universe in what you call the subconscious level that regulate the pulses of life in your body. So your heart is actually governed by the universe, not by you. It's the heartbeat is a pulse of the universe. It's a pulse of the laws of nature. So your heartbeat contains all the harmonizing laws of nature. They are functioning in your body. So your body is actually part of the universe. It's not a physical thing. It's part. The universe is working on it before you materialize it. It exists as part of the universe.
And there you have it. That's the best of 2024. I just want to say, if you've been a long-time listener or a new listener, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for tuning in. I really hope that you get a lot out of my podcast. I certainly get a lot out of doing them, but also a lot out of paying it forward and sharing it on as well. So if you find yourself enjoying them, please be sure to pass it on to a loved one or friend and help continue to get these messages out there. And here's to 2025, huh? Let's continue to lean in and make it our best year yet. I really feel that life is flitting by. I just had my 50th not long ago, and I don't know about you, but I really want to make the most of it. I really want to reap the rewards of things that I can offer, and it be an adventure full of love and joy. Amongst other things, of course, it comes with its challenges as well. But I really feel, the healthier we are, the stronger we are, the more resilient we are, and the more we lean into these practices, the more we can create a space for ourselves to bring our best version of ourselves to the world and meet the challenges every day with a different level of mind that created them in the first place. Someone like Albert Einstein said that once, didn't he? Anyway, much love from me. I hope to meet you in person somewhere soon. Come up and give me a hug if you listen to the podcast. Don't be shy. It's cool. I love meeting people. I love listeners. And maybe come and join us in Bali, end of April 2025. Phenomenal place we got there. We've just booked in Split in Croatia in November 2025. That is going to be phenomenal too. Some exotic places if you're not in Australia. And of course, if you are in Australia, we will be running a retreat in June. January sold out. But even come to Bali with us, honestly, even if you've not been before, it's real easy. We create a WhatsApp group. People come and connect and you get there and you have the best time ever. Anyway, links are below. Much love from me. Enjoy the rest of the year and I will see you soon.